Before Gaia's rise to power and the mass evacuation of the founding planet Agnos, before the Galactic Task Force was even conceived, Coffin Galahad's plan to effectively exile Agnos's dissidents played out in this way.
Ori Quadrant, Aparcia Sector. The Aparcia Sector was settled by people who believed that race mixing was wrong. At first, they negotiated with the terraforming companies for one planet they could share, each race occupying a particular region. Their laws would strictly prohibit interracial mingling of any kind. The first deal fell through when the politicians leading the separate groups could not agree on the division of the planet. They were each convinced their own interest group was getting the shorter end of the stick in some way. However, Coffin Galahad was determined to have the first set of contracts fulfilled. He viewed them as crucial linchpins to the future success of his plans. This would only be possible if Agnos was purged of these groups he lumped under the blanket term, racial purists. Coffin deemed them one of the greatest threats to civilization, as they created too many factions with their divisive rhetoric. So pervasive was their racial propaganda that these teachings had invaded the higher learning institutions, where they were radicalizing the youth with programs such as critical race eugenics. They weaponized the poor and uneducated by mobilizing them into mobs for catchy, feel-good causes. These senseless crusades included My Race Matters, racial pride, and ethnic empowerment. Others had culturally indoctrinated their children into believing other races were inferior and never to be mixed with. Anywhere they went, these groups soon became social pariahs and parasites in the eyes of society, as they circulated money and resources among themselves, sought to put only their own people in power, and conspired to exploit all outsiders. Though this latter type tried to disguise their behavior with sentiments of ethnic heritage and cultural preservation, Coffin wanted all of them out. He saw them as low-functioning individuals whose limited minds could not allow them to see beyond a person's exterior features to judge the contents of the heart. They were holding civilization back. However, dumping them all onto one world might have been a bit optimistic, and completely terraforming several worlds to house each of these brittle groups was not economically feasible. Coffin's first plan was to meet with both terraforming companies and have them bid for the lowest possible contract prices. This allowed him to negotiate the complete terraformation of one world and the partial terraformation of two others. The people assigned to the latter two would have to genetically modify themselves to survive on these planets. The partially terraformed worlds included one that was tidally locked to its star, causing temperatures on the sunny side to become incredibly high, while the side stuck in shadow often dropped below freezing. The life forms inhabiting this world would have to be modified for extreme temperatures. The terraforming companies already had experience with such extremes, since they also ran mining operations. Both companies often modified personnel to work in inhospitable climates, so the technology was already available and in use. The second planet was just water and sky. A thick, cloudy atmosphere concealed vast, deep oceans. Sparse outcroppings of land peaked above the surface when the tide permitted. The people colonizing this world would either have to be modified for ocean life, with the ability to breathe and move freely in the depths, or for life in the clouds. Coffin reconsidered his opinions after discussions with the terraforming agencies. He knew getting people whose race was their very identity to genetically modify themselves would be a tough sell. As such, he proposed the first deal again. This time, the one world that they could all divide and share would come at a greatly reduced price and interest. However, when the delegates heard the offer, only one was able to see reason. While the others were unwilling to compromise, the more agreeable delegate took that opportunity to put in an offer to buy out the other's shares. This afforded him an entire planet for his group. Coffin agreed, and the contracts were written up. Thus, that world was named Uasia, becoming a refuge for those wanting to preserve and exclude others from what was once referred to as Asian culture back on Earth. At this point, Coffin was ready to play hardball. He went directly to the people with his next proposal. He treated the new worlds as a land developer would. For this, he first enlisted the media to make content that engendered a spirit of adventure and put a positive spin on genetic manipulation. This took the form of movies, music, television shows, and more. He kept this subtle campaign going for several years before hiring a marketing firm to create racial propaganda to advertise a vision of new worlds that would be every racist's or potential racist's fantasy. With the target groups primed, he rolled out these provocative commercials. Here are 2 examples of his commercial copy.
Are you tired of your peaceful, pure community being infiltrated by outsiders? Want to keep your family safe? Want to preserve your hard-earned wealth and heritage for those who truly deserve it? Those recognizable as your own?
It's difficult when colored people of all kinds with foreign customs start to move in, disturbing our way of life.
And just imagine the horror when your son, or God forbid, your daughter, brings one of them home. All the sacrifices made by your ancestors erased in an instant.
But what if there was a way to secure our future? A place safe from outsiders?
Welcome to Eden, a world crafted exclusively for the discerning white family.
On Eden, we live above the chaos, pure and angelic, surrounded by our own kind high up in the clouds.
Quite literally, as Eden will be the first sky civilization.
Every sunrise over Eden's pristine skies will bring a kind of joy we can only dream of now. Be among your white and delightsome brothers and sisters. Glide through our immaculate neighborhoods, free from the disruptive presence of those who live in ignorance and degeneracy. Don't ever feel threatened by their aggressive, difficult, and savage ways ever again.
Experience a life where our superior ways are celebrated and, most importantly, preserved.
We've always been a good, clean, wholesome, and exceptional people, but others often take advantage of our good-hearted nature and try to bring us down. Why should we wallow in the filth with them?
To maintain our greatness, we must resist that cry to be kind. We must face the reality that they can't be trained, let alone saved.
Let's resist that temptation to mix with others.
Join us on Eden, where purity reigns
supreme.
Quit mixing. Find your sanctuary on Eden.
We have always been the main branch of humanity, true humans. That's why the inferior offshoots envied and feared us. They know they're just mutants, inferior to our strength, power, beauty, and style. They hate us because they wish they could be us. That's why they try to hold us back, beat us down, and rig the system against us. They know that in a fair race, the ones with superior genetics always win.
But enough is enough.
It's time to stop playing by their rules.
Stop the protests.
Stop the begging and pleading for change.
And just leave. Our people need a place to call our own. A motherland that embraces us and enhances our superior genetics. Somewhere we can be faster, stronger, bigger, better, blacker.
Are you ready to embrace your blackness? Welcome to Namibia, a homeworld made for blackness, where the weak, pale, and frail dare not tread. To be part of this new frontier, you must prove your blackness. The planet won't accept us unless we become one with our brothers in blackness. Let us enhance our beautiful dark skin and our superior genes so that we can thrive where the inferior races can't. A world rich and overflowing with natural resources.
Isn't it about time we had our own?
We will be the masters.
We will set the prices.
The galaxy will come to us to do business.
Come to Namibia and claim your part of our kingdom. The pyramid shall rise again. I will rise again.
The response to these ads was overwhelming. Millions reserved their spot on these uncharted worlds. As many of the politicians' supporters saw this as their future, their appetite for protest and civil unrest waned. Not many were willing to waste time, energy, and money trying to fix their present surroundings when they could simply leave. The politicians could sense this shift as rallies, marches, and protests dried up to the point there was barely enough attendance to be worth the effort. Coffin had won. It wasn't long before the very political leaders who had rejected his deal came groveling back. They knew they would fade into obscurity without their racist supporters, only to become nothings and nobodies on Agnos. At least if they went along with Coffin's plans, they could secure top-ranking positions on the new worlds he planned to establish. Thus, the first 3 worlds came to be: Namibia, Eurasia, and Eden. With this, a new governmental power called the Galactic Alliance was formed. Headquartered on Agnos, it had 4 member worlds. This success opened the floodgates. Other interest groups began tripping over themselves for their turn at colonizing their own planet. Coffin could finally report to the Council that he had accomplished the task for which he was sent, but it had taken some 300 years to fully execute. Although with modern medicine men could live to be 500, Coffin was no longer the young man that stood before them all those years ago. Now gray and fading, he asked to retire to enjoy what was left of his time. The Council, however, had other plans in mind. Due to his effectiveness and his wisdom and guidance, they deemed him too important to simply allow to rot and die. They made the unanimous decision to each draw out a portion of the vast store of life force within themselves and bestow upon Coffin. Thus he was rejuvenated to his former youth. This way he could oversee the establishment of the Galactic Alliance until its completion. Coffin, who by now had become one of, if not the richest man in the galaxy, left that meeting having secured what he had sought all along, years added to his life.
This has been a Gem Mine publishing production. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. If you'd like to go the extra mile in supporting our work, consider checking out our books available on our website or on Amazon. Your purchase directly contributes to the creation of more content. Thank you for being a part of the Gem Mine publishing community. We can't wait to bring you more captivating content in the future.